The Hinatuan Enchanted River is a deep spring with a cave that is thought to connect to the ocean in the Philippines. Dr. Alfonso Amores led a team of 3 cave divers to explore the unknown sections of the cave. During their exploration, they discovered a hidden cave opening that could only be reached by passing through a dangerous siphon. News about this secret cave and the risks associated with exploring it quickly spread, but that didn't deter the team of divers from pushing the limits of the cave repeatedly. This is the horrifying story of what happened to Dr. Amores. The Hinatuan River, commonly known as the Hinatuan Sacred River, is a deep spring river located on the island of Mindanao in the Philippines. It is a picture-perfect, beautiful place with crystal-clear water that captivates the locals. They honor the river and revere it because they consider it enchanted. Some believe that spirits inhabit the river capable of transforming into human or animal figures, reminiscent of folklore legends such as the Native American tales of shape-shifting beings. Moreover, many locals claim that fish in the river are so clever they cannot be caught by traditional methods. Fishing tools like nets and hooks are ineffective because supernatural beings guard the river. The Hinatuan River is approximately 970 feet long and is more of a spring than a natural river. Despite its small size, it is grand and stunning. The river spans about 150 kilometers, beginning with an 80-meter deep hole on the western side, and eventually discharging into a brackish estuary near the Philippine Sea. The river's appearance varies with shades of crystal blue, emerald green, purple turquoise, and various blues, which contributes to its name, the Enchanted. These color variations result from light penetration and the characteristics of the river's walls and bed. Aquatic plants, accompanied by thick tropical vegetation, such as vines and ferns, limit light penetration in the water. Many adventurers, including producers and divers, attempted to uncover the source of the spring's water, but failed. 6 years ago, in 1999, a professional diver named Alex Santos discovered a small tunnel at the base of the bottomless tank. This passage opened up a network of cave channels and chambers that supplied the spring with water and acted as a natural filter, maintaining the water's clarity year-round. Alex Santos did not snorkel in the cave for long, and the next significant dive occurred more than 10 years later. In February 2010, Dr. Amores and 2 other Philippine cave divers conducted the first major exploration of the cave. Aged 68, Dr. Amores spent his retirement years commuting between his home in the Philippines and engaging in the extreme hobby of cave diving. As the divers entered one after the other, they crawled through a narrow crack and accessed a series of large rooms connected by slender corridors. 2 of these chambers were nicknamed Doc's Door, while another passage filled with branches and logs was given the same designation. Additionally, a large chamber known as the Mayor's Chamber measures approximately 120 by 100 feet with a height of 26 feet at its highest point. A single passage connects one hall to the other, which features 2 entrances. One is called Bernal's Crawl, and the other, Patrice's Way, leading into the Mayor's Chamber. Areas such as Calvin's Kneecap and Paul's Passage further intrigued the crew, including Dr. Amores, who estimated the cave system to be much larger than anticipated. They had 5 different energetic zones to examine, although they could explore only a portion of the cave system, which taught the scientists about its formation and water system. After the visit, Dr. Amores expressed that he had barely scratched the surface of the caves and vowed to return. A noteworthy fact for any cave diver is that entering the Enchanted River cave is easier than exiting it. This is because the current flows towards the cave's depths, assisting the divers swimming in that direction. However, when it's time to exit, they must swim against the current. This type of underwater cave is siphoned, making it geologically intricate and risky to navigate. Professional divers often experience increased heart rates and fatigue as they struggle to make their way out during the final moments of dive, often feeling out of breath and facing exhaustion. Dr. Alonso Doc Boy Amores was a microsurgeon and reconstructive surgeon who spent 20 years practicing in the United States before coming home to retire. However, he continued to pursue his passion for cave diving, taking on increasingly extreme diving adventures. Born in the Philippines to a family of 9 children, he developed an early inclination for travel. Despite being energetic and athletic, Dr. Amores began experiencing symptoms of heart issues related to cardiovascular disease at the age of 40. Nonetheless, he did not allow these problems to challenge his ambitions. He achieved membership in both the American Board of Surgery and the American College of Surgeons. Alongside his surgical career, he engaged in various activities, including cave diving. In fact, he earned his cave diving certification from the National Association of Cave Divers in Florida while living in the U.S. Amores became a certified instructor for specific rebreathers on June 5, 2014. That night, he and a friend embarked on a night dive on the Moon Island. They prepared for upcoming dives at the Enchanted River, which Amores had meticulously planned. His friend could see how much Amores longed to return to cave diving after such a long break and how he eagerly anticipated this upcoming trip, which promised to be even more thrilling. The excitement of discovering something new fueled his anticipation. Naturally, Amores and his friends were aware that they would face many challenges, and they felt those challenges would begin as soon as they entered the cave. Additionally, they had to swim against the pressure from the siphons at the openings after each dive. The incident. This situation placed Dr. Amores and his team under a great deal of pressure as they were also leading an underwater film crew that was documenting their operations for a television show on Tuesday, June 17, 2014. Amores and his teams took the time to pack their equipment and plan which dive they would undertake. They were on their second dive of the journey, but that day they focused solely on exploring the cave, hoping to identify suitable sites for filming. Although they planned to dive the following day, after donning their diving equipment, they plunged directly into the water directly above the deep outlet of the spring. This outlet opened downwards into a relatively small entrance, approximately 130 feet below them and about 100 feet wide at its widest point. As they navigated through the cave, they came across Doc's room, where the entrance was partially obstructed by logs and branches. They encountered 2 channels leading to the mayor's chamber, and Amores guided his students towards Bernal's Claw. However, the visibility was poor due to the sediment around the entrance, and the current was so strong that it prevented the students from swimming through the dive site at low tide. The force of water flowing out was significantly more powerful because there was no incoming tide to balance it. They decided to attempt the second passage, known as Patrice's Way. Although the current was still strong here, it was manageable. Amores instructed his students to enter the passage one at a time as the space was too small for them to fit in simultaneously. This proved to be challenging, but the students persevered. Once they finally entered the beautiful chamber, Amores followed them in. However, he found it difficult to maneuver his gear through the tight space. By the time he reached the chamber, he was exhausted. Getting into the cave was more challenging than it had initially seemed. They consumed more oxygen than was anticipated, and the most difficult part of the dive still lay ahead. Amores could have chosen to halt the dive, which would have been a prudent decision as a leader. He needed to assess the safest course of action in that moment. For safety reasons, they could have postponed the dive until the tide was more favorable. However, Amores likely felt compelled to continue due to the film crew's schedule. He was committed to honoring his word and fulfilling his contractual obligations, whether they were personal or professional. Dr. Amores and his 2 students did not give up on the dive and continued to the mayor's chamber, despite the challenging conditions. They crossed Calvin's kneecap and Paul's passage before ascending at a 45-degree angle to approximately 285 feet. Amores wisely decided it was time to turn back at this depth. The divers were exhausted, their oxygen levels were low, and they realized they had not yet reached the most challenging part of the dive. They would have to swim against the current to escape the cave. As they approached the entrance of Doc's apartment, a student, Jamie Lack, stood in awe. as Amores signaled him to swim out first. In such circumstances, the usual scenario was for Dr. Amores to be the first to exit every time he entered the cave. However, in this case, he allowed one of his students to experience it firsthand, acting as a moderator. There could have been several reasons for this decision, such as fatigue from the difficult dive and the considerable effort exerted by the students throughout their learning activities. Perhaps Dr. Amores recognized that he could not afford to be left behind with his students, or he might have been too weak to come out first, not wanting to jeopardize their safety while trying to assist them. They were forced to confront the fact that there was always a reason why Dr. Amores had to alter the plan, and he was the most knowledgeable diver among them. When they attempted to exit the cave through the passage known as Doc's Door, they struggled to swim against the current. Among the students, Jamie pointed out that Dr. Amores was not using his legs properly. When Jamie felt it was time to clarify whether Dr. Amores wanted to proceed, he found it difficult to communicate in a straightforward manner. In any case, the students understood they had to respect Amores' decision, recognizing that he was the most experienced diver and must have had a valid reason for changing the routine. They soon discovered that when they attempted to exit through Doc's Door, the currents were strong, constantly pushing against them. Jamie noticed that Amores was not kicking his legs as he should have been. When he gestured that he was ready to go through, Amores did not react as expected. This was peculiar and disconcerting, as they believed they were close enough to keep an eye on one another even in a strong current. The passage was very narrow, and the young, strong students managed to swim through it to a deeper section where they could see the surface of the water. Amores attempted several times to catch up to them, but the strong current forced him further away from the exit. Watching from the other side, Jamie wanted to assist his friend and beloved teacher, but could only return to the surface with his last breath. Ultimately, he was left with only one option. Although Jamie and the other diver were still students, they had some experience. If Amores had not trusted them, he would not have taken them on that trip in the first place. It took them 75 minutes from the time they entered the water to resurface in the clear waters of the Enchanted River. But they had to leave someone dear to them behind. Amores must have experienced a swirl of emotions as he watched his students swim further away from him into the deep end of the pool. Rescue operation. On one hand, he might have understood that he had either no chance or very little chance of surviving without their assistance. However, he secured himself to the safety rope, perhaps to rest for a moment before attempting to escape the cave again. Another, more far-fetched theory is that he secured himself to the line so that the rescuers could quickly locate his body. If that were the case, he might have known he wouldn't make it. After all, his fatigue and shock were already evident at the surface. The conditions at the cave entrance remained unpredictable. Silt had accumulated there, and it had been several hours since they entered the cave, making the situation extremely dangerous. This did not permit the rescuers to start the rescue mission immediately. They had to wait for the right moment to begin the search. Death of Dr. Amores. Lastly, the conditions improved, and after searching the cave for 8 hours, Dr. Amores' body was recovered about 130 feet deep inside. A post-mortem examination later revealed that he had died from heart failure. Given his age and existing heart condition, it's likely that he should have not attempted the dive. Many people stated that Dr. Amores should have reconsidered his decision and turned back when he realized that entering this part of the cave was inadvisable. But unfortunately, that did not happen. While the story serves as a cautionary tale for anyone who dares to enter the siphon, his body was returned home to his grieving family, a brother, husband, and father. His wife and children wept as they mourned the loss of someone dear to them. This tragedy was a significant setback, especially for the Filipino diving community, as Dr. Amores was credited with popularizing diving in the country. However, he left behind a legacy as the man whose passion for cave diving has inspired others and whose untimely death has brought greater attention to the sport. If you enjoyed the video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to our channel for more chilling cave tragedies.